After successfully developing multiple neighborhoods in Verde Beach, Johnson Aggregates has decided to begin developing more neighborhoods on their home turf. And in Clearwater County, if you want to develop housing, you want to be in Van Buren. The company surveys the community to look for a significant chunk of land for their new neighborhood, but finds that all of the existing owners of the most easily developable land are only willing to sell for absolutely crazy prices. With few options, they begin to look at the hill on the opposite side of Mulligan Drive from the city. What they find are that the lands could be developed if only a bridge were built across the rail line. This is when it pays to be politically connected. In this episode, we're going to learn to bend challenging terrain to our will, making the topography respect us. I'll show you how to create retaining walls and give you a feel of where the community is going next. And if you like building on challenging terrain, hit the like button. And if you prefer building on flat ground, why don't you hit the like button for that too? And leave a comment letting me know if you prefer the retaining wall version of the neighborhood I'm about to develop or the non-retaining wall version. You'll see both of them soon. And without any further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the city of Van Buren in Clearwater County, or at least we will be, but I want to go over what we did in the stream. So we built this lovely solar farm in the stream, and I'm really excited about the way it turned out. This is something that I had recorded a video for and had some issues with, and I think it actually turned out better in the stream than it did in the video, and that's because of all the feedback offered up in the stream. Now, I know that not everyone likes to watch streams. I did try to improve the viewing experience, so if you've watched them in the past and haven't liked all the overlays that were on there, I got rid of all of those. But it's text, there's no animated GIFs, and the chat box is gone, so it's a much more video-like viewing experience, or that was at least the goal anyway. That said, we also had a couple of other things to take care of. Every community now has additional death care. We were going through a significant death wave at the start of the stream. In fact, I couldn't even resume it for a while. We had to get this death care built first. Thankfully, our population is now growing. Things are back in a good spot, and hopefully we'll hit somewhere over 70,000 in this episode. I have 100% confidence that we will. We're in a pretty good spot now with power, with water, with trash, with death care, and it's time to start building again. And I'm really excited about this because this is a build that I've wanted to build for a long time. We're going to have to use our planning roads though, because we're going to be doing a lot today. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves with our normal roads. I know we've got money. We could certainly do it, but this is helpful too. So we're going to start out with some planning roads over the top of our train right here. So we're going to elevate these and send these up. And let's turn on our contours because we don't want to go too high. We'll go right about here, and then we'll line this up here as well. And for this, road guidelines are going to be all that really matters to us. So there we go. And now I want to go up just a bit beyond this, but I'm going to swap this over. We're going to use our 2-unit roads. We're going to go up 5 here. And then this is 12 across. And I want to remember that because we're going to go up 6. We'll get rid of our road guidelines here. We'll go up 6, over 6, over 6, and down 6. And now we have a nice little loop there. We're going to send this to the ground, and we'll upgrade these to be ground level as well. And now I want to keep this on the ground as long as I can. So these are gigantic bridge spans. That's not what we're looking for. So I'm going to increase the size of the brush, come over here, line this up, and pull over our dirt as far as we can. And then we're going to go into our network multi-tool, and I'm going to add a node right at the edge of this. And over here, it looks like it's okay. I'll need to remove a node over here. And let's raise this up as much as we can. And then we'll set this height to be the same as that. Now we should be able to take this segment here and ground it, and that's the goal. There we go. Now I'm going to slope this out, and we're going to see how this works. In fact, maybe we'll just get rid of this node and make these bridge segments. Yeah, that's looking really, really good. The thing that isn't looking so good is we have a lot of trees. I know that we're going to get rid of a bunch of trees today. So I'm just going to formalize it right up front so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. And we're going to go to about here. So we will be replacing many of these, but it's nice to sometimes start out with a clean slate. We're going to go all the way over to this bike facility. There we go. There we go. So with that, I think that we can check our slopes and see how we're looking here. There we go. This is kind of weird looking, and I think that's because we have to slope this just slightly. It's not really going to make a significant impact here, but having that slope will just make this look a little bit better. Here, it's the same thing. If we slope these bridges just a bit, it'll look a lot nicer. That's going to be a common refrain, that we're sloping these out. So I guess don't think that I'm not going to say it again, because we're going to. Now I'm going to send this down here, not because we're going to send a road up this way, but because I want some diagonals. So I'm going to try to find 45 perfectly, and then we can easily find this one. Then we'll get rid of the center, and we're going to send this straight back. This is just going to be a nice, easy, the slopes here are going to be pretty intense, but this will be a nice way to cut across the slopes and have a bit of order through here. Now, the unfortunate thing is this one, for whatever reason, carved into the ground. So we've got to be careful about that. Much, much, much better. So the game plan here is going to be to get this to basically follow the contour lines. And I know the major contour lines do not matter. I've seen that in the comments a bunch of times. It's not about that for me. It's just kind of an easy line to follow. So that's what we're going to do. We'll start out at the bottom, and then I will tell you what the game plan is after that. Okay, so with this build, we're going to need enough space in between our homes that we can slope in between the homes. So I've done a lot of work to try to figure out what this number is. And at first I thought it was 12, then maybe 15 units different, but I'm going to just overshoot it. And I don't think that's a bad thing on a hilly build. So we're going to go 20 units up for our block. And that's basically what we're going to try to hit at. And we'll use our freeform tool to make our connections. And this is going to be an important spot for us, because we want to not be cul-de-saced in here. There we go. Oh, there's an extra node in there. You can tell because it broke like that. Get rid of that node and it will look really good. Now that is huge. That's a big block width. You could go lower, but I'll show you why in a little while why we're not going to do that. So that will mean that there are just fewer homes here, and I think that that is okay. You don't need to always pack homes in. I think that that's something that it's an easy trap to fall into. Now over here, let's once again measure 20 or so units up, and then we'll go over and line that right up. So now that we have this, it's a nice starting point. Let's grab in and break up our blocks. And I'm curious if we measure, so how far is this? This is roughly 500 feet. I think that we could do the same thing more or less right here. It's more or less 500. We'll just come straight down with a planning road. And I'm going to leave only angle on, and we'll just try to line up and make 90s as best we can. And then I'm going to eyeball from here on out. And that's going to do a couple of things for us. It's going to really give us a nice organic look, but it's also going to let us make sure that we're connecting up into places that are the most appropriate. And, you know, I didn't have this road here, but I almost at this point think it would be a nice road to have. So we're going to add it back through. And then over here, our block length is going to be just considerably longer. Not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. It is organic development. There we go. With a bit of planning as well. It's not totally organic, obviously. All right, now through here, I'm going to send this up, and we will cul-de-sac this out. So we will control N this, grab in a, oh, didn't like that. Didn't like that one bit. It just ended my road, which can happen if you get your node, if you try to add a node too close to the end of a node, it will just say no. Now though, because I added onto this, I'm good. I'm going to go into more options and make this 150. And now I get my bulb, and I can move this bulb back. Grab both of these, control H them down to maybe there. Pull these out a little ways. I'm very curious now about our slopes. So this is obviously not a very big neighborhood. It's just a couple of blocks. But what are our slopes like through our neighborhood? Actually, before we do this, I'm going to set the height here, all of these heights to be the same. We already know that this is kind of challenging. I'm going to set this height to here. Same here. Now at least this little circle isn't going to be a mess. Now we're going to need to slope all of these again. And it's hard to see because of the orange, but this is 5.8. That's fine. And here, we're looking at 7.8 and 4.8, and we can smooth those out to 6.3. It's going to have to be fine. Now through here, we're going to just see what we're looking at. And truthfully, because we followed our topographic lines, we were able to smooth it out to 0 fairly easily. Through here, we're looking at 8, 7.4, clean 8 all the way across. That one's a little tougher. Maybe we shouldn't have that. 14, it's fine. We're going to do it because we like it. And we'll do the exact same thing here. 10. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. Through here, all of these are going to be really challenging. 17, some pretty crazy stuff. The way that we can mitigate that would be to add more curves. That said, these do exist. I mean, sometimes when you're in a place that's very hilly, you just end up with some really steep slopes, and maybe you don't focus your buildings on those roads, unless you're San Francisco, because then it's your only option. That said, we are going to focus our buildings away from these roads that are so steep and put them on our flatter slopes. It'll make it easier for us to construct these. That's how we'll make it work. But first, I want to clean up some of these nodes. And here's the other thing. The nodes are all flat, which makes this look even steeper. If we slope this out, it makes it look a little better sometimes. That said, I think that we've all been in a sloped intersection. And if you're like me, you've been in an accident in a sloped intersection because you couldn't see. And as a result of the slope, you hit someone. And that was because of the slope. So this is clearly not ideal, but we don't live in a world of ideals all the time. Sometimes you end up with a bit of imperfection, and that's okay. And there are no car accidents in City Skylines, so we could be happy with that. So now we need building pads for our homes, and we could just start plopping them down, but we're planning here. We're doing something a little bit better than that. So let's go in, and I'm going to show you actually what we're planning on building. We are going to use the same homes that we used over here. So this, if we take a look, these are the Sears pre-war. Well, that's the Sears Pittsburgh. I don't want to use the Sears Pittsburgh, honestly. We are going to use these, which are the Midwestern pre-war. That is it. So we'll just type in pre-war as our search term, and that's what we are going to place over here. But before we do that, before we place anything, I just want to get a feel for how deep these lots are. It looks like they're about 2 units, and we want to go beyond that if we're going to make this look at all realistic. So I'm going to get this to be really sharp, and I want to focus on the road because we're going to come and flatten out each of these streets, and that's not big enough. So let's extend this. We'll make this maybe 120. That seems pretty okay. And then we can just follow this. Now you're going to have to trust me here. You're going to have to trust me because I know that what it looks like I'm doing is crazy times with Phil. And I promise you, there is a method to this madness. Even if you don't see it just yet, you're going to like the end result. So I'm going through this, right mouse clicking, grabbing a height, and just tapping. And I'm able to do that because we have the brush strength set to 100. We'll do the exact same thing here. And then that'll be basically the last time our brush strength is this high. All right. Now it looks absolutely crazy. We'll get rid of this house so we don't have to look at that blinking. So now what we are going to do is try to make this look a little bit better. Now I'm going to prep all of these as though we're just going to have a hill that's sloping down. And if I were going to do that, I would take my brush strength down to something really manageable, like 0.05, and my brush size down to something manageable. And what we're going to do is use our slope terrain tool, and we're going to come up here onto our flat spot, come to our bottom, and pull this up. And we have to do this on every single block. Now, a couple of notes here. Now, you see I've struggled with this one a little bit. If you get too far back, like let's say you go right here, and then you slope from too far this way, you start your slope too soon and end it too late. So it's going to be really important that we find the edge of our lots, and we're thinking about the edge of our lots, and we select the edge of our lots, and we go on both sides. And doing that, particularly with this theme, means that we get a bit of lumpies and bumpies that we'll have to contend with down the line. Or I'll show you right now. It's just going even slower with your brush, and sometimes even popping through here with this shift terrain and just raising it, lowering it until you get this stuff to go away. Or you just deal with it. That's the other option, is just deal with it. Okay, so with that, we have mostly cleaned things up here. There are a couple of areas like this where we're just going to need to go through and clean a little bit up kind of as we're going through. And this brings up kind of an interesting point. So these corners near the roads, we're going to need to provide a bit of extra separation. You can kind of see the lot's end. So you're not going to be able to go to the end of the lot and just kind of zone as much as you can. In fact, we're not going to zone anything. That's certainly an option. I like plopping some stuff now. I've gotten really, become really accustomed to it, and I really enjoy it. So I think that's what we're going to do for much of this. Here, I'm going to soften this, and we're not going to have anything on this side of the road. And over here, we are going to have a row of homes along here and the cul-de-sac. So this is one of the ways that we could handle this. This in vanilla, you could do this, and it's an excellent way of dealing with your terrain. I didn't use any special tools. I just sloped things out. I gave enough space, and it looks very large, but it's fine. And if we take a look at our homes now, we'll come through here, select these. Again, I'm going to randomize these. So I have my question mark set to be the key. That is my randomized key. So I can just come through here and just. And this is going to drive me crazy. So before we get too far along, I am going to add some water pipes underneath the road right where they belong. And then we're going to need power as well. And what we're going to do here is something that we have the ability to do because we have these transformers. Basically, I'm going to place one right here on one side of the bridge and then one over here on the other. And if we pop through, it hops, it jumps, we're good. So feeling very good about that. But while we're prepping things, why don't we go ahead and upgrade our roads as well? So we're going to grab the roads that are over here and mirror these through this area. And then through here, I'm giving this some thought. And initially I was going to use the big suburban roads. The problem is they don't have lights, and I really want lights through here. So we're going to use our big urbans. And I think that at least we'll get some lights through here then, and that'll look a lot nicer. And then before we load this entire area up with a whole bunch of residential, I want to talk a little bit about other uses. I think that we need a couple of parks through here. We should place those first so we don't have to use eminent domain on a home that we just built. And we should also place a couple of commercial uses. Those are going to be easier though. We're going to probably place those right along the edges here so that people coming and leaving their homes to go into their job at the city, they can swing by and get some gas either on the way in or the way out of the neighborhood. Maybe a Starbucks or something along those lines, some sort of, fast food restaurant. As much as that's not great, it's something that would be helpful here. And we could add some corner shops. I don't really see it in this neighborhood. This starts to feel pretty suburban. So let's grab some parks first. And you know which park we're placing first. We're going to add a dog park right at the entry point into this area. The thought here is that folks, well, first of all, they terrain conform, which I think is awesome on a super hilly area. When you look at this and you go, what the heck do I do with this? You could add a dog park. So that's wonderful. You could add many other parks as well, but it's a little hard to have a swing set on a hill like this. Maybe we'll go with it. Oh, look at it. It's floating. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. The dogs, though, they love hills. In fact, the dog park that I go to is on a hill. It's fine. It's that dogs don't care. Dogs don't care one bit. Up here, we're going to send this big park right back here. And that is very steep. Oh, boy. No, we can't do that. I can't do that to these Sims. That's just way too much. We'll go with something smaller. Maybe this is where we get our large playground in here. Although if we're going to do that and it's a smaller park, we're not going to block this road because that road can continue up. Not 100% sure that it will, but at least we haven't made that a complete impossibility. And then a couple of small parks around here. So I want to make sure that every kid in this neighborhood has a park a couple blocks away. I wouldn't call what I'm doing right now the height of realism, but I think that in reality, we could rearrange our playground equipment to put it in flat spots, not just allow it to float in the air. So we'll take some liberties and it'll be just fine. All right, so through here, now we're at a spot where if the power were jumping, which it's not, we'd be fine. I'm gonna leave this paused and try to jump the power. So let's go ahead and find it again, and we're gonna place some more homes. You know, and part of me is starting to think that maybe I should have a tag set up. So if I come through and I set a tag, let's make a brand new tag. So I'm gonna come through and click on the tag panel, and we're gonna make a new one called Sears. And then we'll hit enter, so we add that through here. And I don't want any of the red roof stuff. And I'm kind of curious. I have this big tag, but I don't really know what's in there. So I think I'm just going to delete the big tag because now it'll be easier to just add homes that I like to this. Okay, so now we have a whole bunch of these through here. So we're going to go into Sears. We've got to refresh this. So we'll get rid of this. We'll refresh this. And then all of our homes are showing up here. So now we can come through here and again, randomize and end up with a nice variety of homes, some of which are a little bit bigger. And I think that's going to be a good change for us. And what I think we're going to do is try to keep our larger homes for these lots down here. So I'm going to be a little more thoughtful about that. I almost wish that I might change up my game plan a little bit. So these homes that are 3 back, it may make sense to keep those separate. So maybe I'll untag this and create a new tag, Sears Small. Okay, now I can refresh these and it'll only have these 3 deep homes. The other thing I could have done is I could have filtered here, but either way, we've already done this. So we've gone down this path. We're gonna see ourselves all the way through it. So along here, I wanna go with some of the bigger homes and again, give them just a bit of separation. And now I'm gonna go back to Sears Small and on the other side of the road, have some of these. This will allow me to increase the density here just a bit. Okay, so I've filled up most of the area over here, and I wanted to stop here because I think that we have an opportunity. And that opportunity is for some park space over here that maybe has a bit of synergy between the 2 areas. So I'm gonna grab a tennis court, put that right here. And the nice thing about that is that folks from the neighborhood and folks from the school could both benefit from this. Now I know that there's another tennis court over here, but that's okay. You can't have too many, right? maybe you can. We'll say this is pickleball and then everyone's happy because pickleball is, you know, that's the thing these days. Let me know down in the comments if you play pickleball. I'm curious. It's one of those things where the number of pickleball courts that I've got to work on, it's interesting. Back in the day anyway, not so much anymore, but back in the day. There we go. Looking good, looking good. Now we're going to continue over here and finish out our little area. Now, I did make a mistake. We're going to have to call a mulligan because I added homes where we are going to put some of our commercial uses. And though I'm not overly enthusiastic about building right here, I am going to do it because I think that there would be there'd be value in having these homes here. Otherwise, it's a really long street. And I don't know why anyone would build it bluntly. Normally, infrastructure like this gets built if there is a reasonable development need for it. So this street gets built and then the homes on this street pay for it as they're built. Otherwise, who pays for the street? The developer's not going to do it out of the kindness of their heart. The city's not going to do it just because they want to. It just doesn't get built. We're going to leave it and we'll have one area where we have homes. Now for the rest of these areas, oh, and I missed some homes right here. We'll add a couple. Okay, now I want to level some of these out again, and it's going to be the same story as before. Grab our lots, pull it over. And here, I think we're going to slope. So right mouse click up here, left click down here and slope it right up. And then we'll feather this out a little bit. And it's not going to be perfect, but that's going to be perfectly acceptable. So There are a couple of things that we could do here. We could just accept it as is. I think in vanilla, this would be an excellent job. And I think truthfully in a modded game, it's not a bad job. I think it turned out okay. We could add some landscaping through here and it's fine. I think that there would be a temptation from some folks to add another street through here and add homes. You could, but you're going to run the risk of ruining how nice this looks. And, you know, I think that someone could make a logical case that maybe 15 would have been a fine separation. That said, I think it's fine as is. We are going to show you the other option though. The other option would be to add a retaining wall. So I'm going to resume this because this should all be connected up right now. And if you wanted a retaining wall, this is something that you could do. So I'm going to add in a couple of, we're adding in a couple of mods. First of all, the Rotterdam mod, which will get rid of some of the shadows when things get too close. And then we're going to add in Lost Gecko's retaining walls, News surface networks, and Spectre 18's terraforming networks. The three of these mods are going to help us create wonderful retaining walls. So let's start first and go into our networks. And if we look through here, these are our two retaining wall networks that we could use today. So I chose these ones because they don't have a grass texture attached to them. So some of the Ronix 69 retaining walls have a grass texture. I think it makes it more difficult to work with them. They also invert in awkward ways that makes it more challenging to use them, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add a retaining wall behind here. So now we can use move it and realign some of these things. So we'll bring this down and make it look really nice over here. And now the trick would be basically making this look acceptable along here, whatever you deem to be acceptable. So you could control H this, that'll get it way higher than you actually need it to be. But I find that sometimes that's a nice starting point. Just now it's all even. And this is where our surface networks come in. So the surface networks are the ones down here. You see we have 32 meter surface network. Again, these operate like roads. I'm going to try something though. Normally you could just draw these in next to it and you can kind of see what it does. You can see that it allows you to flatten this out. But these are both networks, which makes me think, and this is an on the fly thing, so maybe it's a dumb idea, but we're going to try it anyway. We're going to use our parallel network and see what that does for us. Okay, and now we can tab this over. Holy cow. I think that this might work. So I'm going to look at this end, and it doesn't look like it's sticking out. Plus or minus would get this to move further back. If it's too far, you'd see it sticking out like that. So we'll just move this over. So looks like 16 meters is perfect. It's a little bit too tall, but we can hit enter anyway. And now we've got this beautiful network there. We are going to clip onto this and continue to draw this just a bit further. And then we're going to pop into move it. And here's where the magic begins. So we pull this over and we'll just drop this down. And now you can't even see it. I guess there's a little bit of a seam right here. There we go. And then we can drop this one down as well, as much as we need to, or just even leave it up a little bit. It doesn't matter either way. And now we need to find our nodes, select our nodes. Oh, actually, all of our nodes are going to need to be adjusted separately because you can see that it's a little high over here. But here's the thing. We now know that if we select a node right here, or we can select the one behind it. And now we can move these at the same time. So I'm going to come through here, drop this down just a bit. Totally even there. Perfect. We can do the exact same thing over here. Okay, so I'm pretty pleased with this. You start to see that there's just a couple of lumpies and bumpies here. It's really apparent when you turn on your contours. So we're going to go ahead and go into our soften terrain tool, really take this down, and then right mouse click. So that drops this down. Try to make this look a little bit better. Same thing over here, looking absolutely stunning. Now this looks bad with our contours on, but we turn it off and look at that. Because our little network is there, we are in the money. So the other thing that we could do here, if we wanted to make this bottom side flat, let's say we had homes along here, we could certainly go into our terraforming networks. And I like to use the 2-unit wide one. And I wonder, since we've already done this with our parallel road tool, why don't we give it a shot again? So this is on the correct side. I'm gonna pop this out a little bit further though. We'll go 9 meters and then we'll hit enter. And the reason I wanted to do that is we're gonna back these out. And I actually inadvertently grabbed that bit of retaining wall. So we'll drop this way, way down. So this would be a way, you can't go too far. There is a limit. You can see that we now, oh, there is, oh, the limit is really high. That's the limit. So you might have to do multiple levels, but you can have a pretty significant wall now. And if you pull this closer to the network, it gets rid of the lumpies and bumpies. And then if you extend this up, you could have a nice clean slope up the side. So look at how nice that looks. So this would be beneficial if you wanted to have homes at the, like just beneath here. You could make this the backyard level. So that would be a way to shrink this up. Now I've done that, but I will tell you, it is very finicky. It takes you a long time. And the main reason why I didn't do that for today's build is because it would have taken us hours to get it right. But if you're just casually watching maybe a City Planner Plays video and just building a city, I think that you could take the time and get it done in that way. And that truthfully, that would be my preferred way of doing it. And I might, we'll leave that up to you guys. Do you guys want to see a stream where maybe we spend some time getting to the homes a bit closer together and building some of these retaining wall neighborhoods? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious. If you want it, we're going to do it. That said, if you think it's just too putsy, it's not what you're interested in, that's fine too. I totally get it. I totally get it. So if you build one of these, look at that though. That's awesome. That is awesome. So we're going to come through and I'm going to see if we can slope this nicely. And that terraforming network is strong. If there's anything that we can see, it's that. So it's definitely, there is a time to use this, and I don't know that I used it at the right time, but it's still fun to experiment and learn some new skills. And I think that that was a fun little skill, and you can see how this could work now. That said, there are a couple of challenges associated with this. So if you were to go ahead and do this, and then you select your tree, let's see, go down to 1, and you want to place this up here. First of all, now it's a network. You can't place any trees, you might be thinking. You could place it here, going to move it, Control C, and now you can place it. You just got to be careful because sometimes they'll drop down like this. So you're going to have to come through and do a bit of work yourself with Move It to get this to be in the right place. So just things to be aware of. So if you were going to do this and try to make this work, I would highly recommend that you use your marquee tool inside of Move It. So that is coming through here and making sure that all of your nodes and segments are not selectable, buildings too. And honestly, yeah, just get it down to trees. So then you could pop through here and you can see that that tree is floating. We've got to lower that down and now it's good. And we would have to do that with literally every single tree that we place in this area. So just something to be aware of. This is one of those, it's your call sorts of things. If you wanted to take this approach, you could. Now, one thing you can't do is add in a fence. So keep that in mind. This is floating. If we come through here, this is the ground. We go into the upside down and we can see that there is a real ground here. We've just made it look nice for ourselves. So if you wanted to add a fence here, not going to happen. So that's a limitation. I guess you could use a key wall too. That would be another way to handle this. I just think the key walls look pretty unreasonable. Truthfully, this kind of retaining wall, super expensive. I don't know how reasonable it is either, but I like it. It looks cool. It'd certainly be a discussion piece as you're up down here. You look up and there's that gigantic retaining wall. Looks like someone cared about that place. There we go. We are going to decorate a little bit of this though. And the way that we're going to do it, we're going to zoom out and I want to just snag some trees from around here. We're going to decorate around all of these homes. And then I've created the new Ashland Fall brush. And you know, it's kind of funny. I intended to bring the build into winter as soon as it snowed by me, and it snowed. That said, we have the update, and I just kind of took it as a win that it started up first time. So with that in mind, we are going to add in some of our landscaping along here. We're going to make sure we've got nothing selected so we don't inadvertently go into our train. And we're just going to densely add landscaping along here. Same thing here, although I am going to change the brush size so that we get behind here. Again, we don't want to get our slopes if we can avoid it. Okay, and now we need to really focus and make sure, well, first of all, that looks terrible. I want to really focus and just make sure that we don't have any of these trees on the cliff. You know, that's one of my pet peeves, and I've got to make sure that we're not doing it. There we go. And I think for the most part, that looks pretty darn good. And we could come through in the middle here and add some landscaping. If we do that, though, I want to take the brush size down or brush size up and strength down. And we are going to just kind of tap a couple of times. And then I want to come through and I just want to make sure that we haven't destroyed all of our views. So let's come into street level and see what we see. So if we were in this home, that's just a beautiful home. Yeah, no, we didn't ruin anything. In fact, we've made it seem like there's a forest in between the city and this neighborhood. This is awesome. I really like that. That is great. So these would be monster lots, but it's okay. Sometimes you have big lots. And you get a feeling that these would be super desirable. Like, what an excellent place to live if you could. I think that we would see some key walls potentially along here to prevent erosion. Think of the erosion effect if we had some issues along here. But I think we're going to save that for now. What we'll do is fix some of our madness. Some of this looks bad because of the work that we did earlier. We just got to come through and give it a couple of taps. Yeah, feeling really good about that. Feeling really good about that. And this has added about 1,500 people onto our population. I don't know that it's this in particular, but those people have been added to the community generally. But we're not done here. We've got two more things. This is a really secluded area, and I'm not really a fan of that. Now, granted, there is a way to walk into the university now, but we're this close to the train station and there's absolutely no way to access it. So this would be a challenging thing. I think that the city would really find a lot of value in these connections. This connection right here is interesting because this one, the developer might find value in, because this would really raise the value of all of these homes. And they've spent a lot on infrastructure, especially after building this retaining wall. So we're going to build a pedestrian bridge down here. And we're going to build a bike bridge over here. So one of these, the city's going to need to pick up. And I'm guessing it's this one. This is a very specialized purpose for this. And it's just not as valuable to the developer. I mean, I guess you would be able to get kids to the high school, but it's still not as valuable as a connection to the train station, which actually there are many studies that show the correlation between land values and proximity to high quality, high capacity transit. So we're going to add this over here, and then we're going to send this up this way, and then we'll loop into this. Looks like it's about 3 tiles, so loop right in. Not super attractive just yet, but that's okay. We know that we trust in our ability to make these things better. Now here, I'm going to take this, Control H this down to here. I think that's a lot more reasonable. Still clears this, so we're doing good there. And then we're going to take this and Control H this to here so that you're not, as you're coming down, you start the decline not around a turn, but in a flat area. And now you can see that the slope here doesn't appear to be too bad, but we can give this a look over. All right, it's not good. It's 10. So you're going to get some beefy calves coming up here, but you're going to be okay. Some steep stuff going on. Now this is a steep thing that I'm not super excited about. I think it's too high, just a little bit. Oh no, maybe it's not. I thought this looked to me like it was excessively tall as I was over here, but it's not. So I do want to check and make sure that our slopes, we've got a 6 there. If it's going to be bad over here, maybe we can improve it on this end. The other thing that we could do, this is not the height of realism, but it is going to make me pretty happy. There we go. Now it's 5. We've got to do something here, but we can figure that out. So we're going to say that there was a little bit of a hill here. Maybe this is where they were dumping all of the excess soil from digging out the basements. Maybe this is the excess soil from actually digging out this trench down here. I like that idea a lot more. There we go. There we go. Feeling much better about that. I'm going to node controller this just to see if I can improve the aesthetic there. That looks absolutely horrendous now. I don't know what that did. Holy cow, that looks bad. What if I make this a bridge now? That's terrible. I don't know what happened. Yeah, that's not super realistic, but here's where I give myself a pass. I like that this now has side rails. So that part is nice because we have the train right there. So it's a little bit safer. So we're going to give ourselves just a slight pass right here. Now I'm wondering, this doesn't look straight to me. I'm going to hold down Alt and see if this is straight. It was not. So now I'm happier with it. We just want a nice straight connection across. And one last thing, this is totally being extra. Let's just see how our slope is here. There we go. That's the result of too much playing with this. There we go. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. I promise I'm going to stop. I'm going crazy at this point. So there we go. On this end, we're going to go with the pedestrian connection. So this is one that requested that the developer builds this. And rather than getting salty, they're actually pretty okay with this one because this is a valuable amenity for their potential customers. There we go. So we're going to fix this up. We'll pull that back a little ways and improve that as well. And it's kind of the same deal here. We'll control H this here so the bridge is flat, and then we'll have all of our sloping occur on this edge if we can. Let's see what this looks like. Well, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. We'll have to do some sloping all the way across. 7 is manageable in comparison. So this should be an incredibly valuable connection. I am curious though, now that we've got this, let's just make sure that a train can clear it. Train is good. And we'll speed this up and see if we get some utilization. Okay, and we've got one person, Stefan Wright. All right, and now with that, now that we have this working, we're just going to double check and we'll check out our routes, how much utilization. Oh, interesting. They're still getting off in that junction there. That's not right. What if we bring that back just a bit and then re-angle that out? Hopefully that ends that weird junction. That was not what we wanted. Well, we'll give it a pass. It'll clear up eventually, I'm sure. And over here, is this one getting utilization? Not really. It's kind of unfortunate. I assume over time it will get more. I'm going to speed this up and see. Okay, now we see some folks opting to use this. And that was the game plan. Not a lot. But this will eventually become a much more developed area, and that will improve it. With that, I think that we've only got one more thing to do, and that is zoom in and have a brief city tour. All right, I think right here you can see why we went with the big urban roads instead of the big suburban roads. We get some lights, and that makes a huge difference in terms of the neighborhood quality of life, in my opinion. I think that living in a neighborhood without streetlights in a city would be a real problematic thing. If you're out in the country, great, more power to you. In fact, I'd encourage it there so you can see the stars, but in the city, I think it's a safety concern. That said, check out the views that you get from up here. So we're up here. and you get a beautiful view of the Capitol. Get the water a little bit in the background. Oh, and if you go too fast like I just did, you fly all over the place. So let's come through this house and see what we see. Wow. Capitol out the window. I think every home in this area is going to have that kind of view. Here's another one, a Capitol view, some trees. Oh boy. So this would be a super desirable neighborhood. And what I really love about it is now it feels like our city is getting even more substantial. The one concern that we're going to have here is that for as long as we've only got these 2 bridges and this connection up here, this is very disconnected from the rest of the city. So we're going to need to think about other targeted connections that we can make that would make sense and, actually provide value. Because we don't want to just have connections for the sake of having connections. At least right here, this is an arterial connection. There's so much capacity here, it's ridiculous, but we're funneling everyone to this area, so that's not ideal. This is editor fill, and I realized that I forgot to put something in that's very important, so let's add that right now. Okay, so I meant to add in just a couple of service stations just so that folks in this neighborhood would be able to grab some gas on their way out of the neighborhood. The other idea would be some sort of, Starbucks. We'll call a little eminent domain in that home right there, and that to me makes a ton of sense. That said, it probably needs parking too. Not ideal, but I do think that this would be something that would be very valuable for this neighborhood and something that everyone would expect to see here. The other thing is we've got a whole bunch of signalization here. Let's get rid of that too while I'm thinking about it. There we go. Let's hop back into the video. That said, I think that we've made some good progress today, and I've really enjoyed this build, and I hope that you have as well. If you did, please hit the like button. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I really cannot wait to see you in the next one where we continue building here in Clearwater County. Take care. Bye-bye.